guys, welcome to another episode of Not Your Average Man. I'm Chris. I'm here with my buddy Brad, and we're coming today talking about balance. Balancing your work, if you're married, your family, and your ministry responsibilities, which I think is going to throw some guys.
Yeah.
I think there's going to, I'm not ministry. Yes.
Yeah.
You're a ministry. We're going to talk about that because balancing in general can be difficult. Life can throw a lot at you and can shift you side to side, and trying to stay on task for any Christian man, that it's a challenge. So it is important to prioritize, and we'll talk more about that, and to manage what you're doing, manage your time. We only have so many days. We're told the days are limited. Yeah. Right. So we've got to make sure that we're making the best of it. I remember, this is off topic a little, that one guy was telling me, because we're talking about going to see some sort of movie, and he's like, yeah, no, that's all right. And I'm like, look, I know it's not the best movie, but he's like, yeah, I get that. And I'm not worried about like the language or that kind of stuff. And that I'm just thinking, is that where I want to be sitting when Jesus returns?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Man.
I'm like, yeah. Fair.
That makes you want to go to the bathroom fast.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be sitting on the can. Right? Like,
during the rapture.
Yeah, I got to hurry up and get this done. Yeah. This is the last place I want to be. Come on. I know that's not what he meant, but still, that's pretty funny.
But still, yeah. I'm thinking, I'm such a bad Christian. I'm going to be there with a big bucket of popcorn and a soda, going, hey.
That's kind of why I threw that bathroom one in there, because it's like, yeah, I don't want to go be in the bathroom, but I gotta go. So.
Yeah, I know. That's the point there. It's a different perspective, and I think that's where we'll sometimes we'll lose our perspective. Is that right? I mean, is that too much that we lose our perspective?
No, I don't think so. I think you do, especially when we're talking about balance. Mm-hmm. Your perspective matters.
Yeah.
And so you can lose it. You can definitely lose your perspective, and then everything gets out of balance. And then you're stressed out. You're like this week for me. So I just came back from an overseas trip for work. I'm back, and I got in at like 12:30 a.m. on Easter Sunday. Got home, got to bed, got up, went to church, and foggy that day. Foggy the next day, going right back to work. And my balance was off, right?
Yeah.
I was definitely tired. I didn't have a chance to balance like the rest, right? I didn't have a chance. And life will do this to you. You didn't have a chance. But this week, stupid little things have been stressing me out.
Yeah.
Lisa's like, why are you stressed out? And I'm like, I don't know. Like this needs to get taken care of. I got to do this. She's like, relax, it'll be done. And I don't stress out. Like that's not me. But now that we're talking about this, I'm like, wow, my perspective was off because I was off balance. I didn't have, I had my priority. My God is always, it doesn't matter because of everything I've been through, everything I've learned. I know that, that's my thing.
Right.
But my balance in my life was off, and stupid things were stressing me out. For sure. So I think I got a taste of this topic this week.
Yeah, gotta smack you in the face.
Yeah.
Well, and that's actually a great point. That if we allow things to get out of balance, if we lose our focus of what's truly important, it's really easy for that to affect our attitudes, affect our mindset, affect how we're interacting and we're dealing with stuff, and then things just start to fall apart, and we're like, and we forget that's why it's falling apart.
Yep.
We just think that we're just getting barraged by the world, and that we're just getting swept up by the current, and that we have to go along with it. We forget that we're the ones who kind of didn't do what we needed to do to keep our bearings.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a question. So with your career, what you and Jamie do, what you and your wife do, the podcast, all these things, and your ministry, both your ministries, right? Now I know that's what you're getting at, but both your, like, what does balance look like for you? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I ride a unicycle. and
You got a bowling pin on your nose.
While I'm bounced around. So yeah, if you don't see us on, if you're not watching the YouTube, then you just missed my impression of the seal, I guess. But yeah, it's a challenge. But you know what it is? It's that idea of keeping the priority, like you're saying, and that's actually probably the first step, right? If your first point is to set a priority, and we've talked about this in other podcasts, guys. The term priorities is a I don't want to say manufactured, but well, all words are made up. But I make
up my own words all the time.
All the time. But it's a term that wasn't put into use until what? And Brad, you talked about that. Was it the 60s or the 40s?
I think I want to say it was the 40s, but now that you put me on the spot, I have no idea.
But yeah, it's a challenge because I will lose perspective and of what's truly important, and then so I'll start running after the urgent. What fires do I need to put out? What squeaky wheels need grease? And that's where I'll start running myself ragged. And that's something that Jamie and I forget the verse, and I couldn't even pause and go, hey, let me look it up. But it was a verse that talked about, I don't think it was the branches and the vines. But it was that same mentality that, look, you're not able to do because you're not in me. You're not abiding in me. You're running off on your own. And because you're running off on your own, you have your own energy, your own steam. And it's going to make sense why you're exhausted. It's going to make sense why you're frazzled and why then you're more irritable and more on edge and feel more helpless. And why can't I get any of this stuff done and all that stuff, I'm not in Christ. I'm not staying out. I'm connected to the source, and I'm doing things that I shouldn't be doing, or in times that I shouldn't be doing them. Yeah. And so I only got myself to blame, and which is why we wanted to share with you guys, because, and we're not saying across the board. I mean, there's absolutely some circumstances people are in that's beyond them. That's bigger than them. Job didn't do anything to deserve what he was in, right? So don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that across the board, you only have yourself to blame, but I'm suggesting that more of us have options than we're aware of. I heard a saying one time, and I'll use it every now and then because I love it. If you don't know you've chosen something, you don't know you can choose something different.
That's good.
And I think that's where a lot of us are in. We just don't realize that we chose this, because it doesn't feel like I wouldn't have chosen this for me. Well, but what are you choosing differently? Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah. I like that. I'm sure you've heard this too, but I've heard this said, the acronym WIN. And I think this kind of falls into priority and how you balance things and what do you focus on at what time. My ultimate overall priority is my relationship with Christ. But in different facets in my life, there's a priority that pops up, right? And so the acronym WIN is what's important now. So I don't know if you've heard that. I've heard it. It's not me. I got this from somewhere else. It's not me. But what's important right now, right? And so you have all these tasks, all these things going on. So, we said ministries, right? Because as a man, your first ministry is your family. Yeah, it's 100% your family. If you don't have kids, it's your wife. So that's the thing, right? If you have kids now, you have a little bit bigger of a ministry, right? Like you have things.
Your ministry's growing.
Your ministry's growing, exactly. But you have your first ministry is your family, and then you have your career, And you also have your personal life, like you as an individual, right? Because there's things that I like to do that helps me grow and helps me do that first ministry well. And then it also helps me do the second ministry well, which is, you know, my wife and I doing the marriage thing. And then this also, like all this falls into that, because it's all about sharing what God's doing in our life and how to live biblically, right?
Right.
So in all that, what's important now? So right now, as we're recording this, what's important now is this. This is what's important now. My wife's in the other room doing something. The kids are here, probably some outside playing, a couple of them outside playing, a couple inside here, whatever. But that's what they're doing, and they're taken care of. But what's important right now is this interaction. And so I'm not thinking, what do I have to do next? What didn't I do? I'm not thinking those things. And I think for me, that helps me balance. Yeah. Where it's like, because I can get chaotic in my head. You won't see it out front, but in my head, I'm like, shoot, I didn't do that. I still have this to do. And then I'm doing this right now. And I told Lisa the other day, I was like, I feel like I might have attention deficit disorder a little bit, like some variation of it. Listen, you know, I was born in 78. Like I'm a product of the 80s. Like no one had it then. Right. Like, you know, it was just that kid that was like, you need like the medicine then was your teacher's smack. Hey, pay attention. Right. You know,
and it was just the one kid.
Yeah, it was just the one kid. But now that I've just realized this now that I'm older, like there's times where I don't have the what's important now in my head. And while someone's talking, there's like a band going off in my head, just like doot, 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 doot. And I'm just like listening and nodding my head. And in my head, I'm like, I lost this dude. I have no idea what I'm thinking, because I'm thinking about that other thing. And I'm thinking about the other thing I was thinking about. So all of a sudden it's all running in my head. I literally have to tell myself, no, this is what I'm doing now. Right now. This is what I'm doing. And that helps me balance.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a great point that being present and being in the moment, because a lot of people, that's a struggle in general, right? You know, we're going on to the next thing. We're worried about the next thing coming up and all that. But I think we miss the negative impact to ourselves, because we can't enjoy it. We're not enjoying the moment. We're not enjoying this, but we're also missing the negative impact on the people that we're around, our first ministry. Right. Or you know, our second ministry, or even those who are ministering to. Because again, guys, you don't have to have a podcast. You don't have to have, you know, a coach who says you don't have to be on a stage, right? Well, there's different stages, but the people who see you, and we talked about this in a prior podcast, you know, people are watching you. You've got it. We all are called to ministry. We're all ministers in one way or fashion of, if we're in Christ, we got a job.
Yeah, you do.
We've got a job. And if we're not present with those people and we're running ahead, what's the takeaway? Right? What are they supposed to think about themselves? What are they supposed to think about what, you know, you're thinking of them, and then thus what's God thinking of them, because you're a minister of the Most High God.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a smack in my face a little too, because as far as just a reminder that, man, if I'm starting to think about, oh, I got to make this call or I got to do this while someone else is talking, how devaluing.
Yeah, I don't want God doing that to me. Like sitting there praying, and he's like, "Oh, I hear you, but man, there's this other thing I'm thinking of." Wait a minute.
Yeah. So God, if you could just do that for me, huh? What? Yeah. Could you go back over that last part? Yeah. I was listening. I just want to clarify.
Yeah, exactly.
Just want to make sure I heard you right.
No, that's such a good point, though. I know I dislike so much if I'm in a conversation and all of a sudden I know they're not really listening. You know? I mean, you wonder why women get so mad. Like, you know, I mean, really, you wonder why your spouse, as a man, you wonder why your wife is getting so mad, because that's what's happening. Like, you reverse that role, and Like, are you even listening to me? Like, did
Yeah.
you hear what I said?
Well, here for some of you guys who might have a struggle being able to put yourself in that spot. Okay, you gave your wife advice, and now she's doing something else.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you can't relate to the are you listening to me, then relate to the this is what you should do, and then she does the complete opposite. That's how it feels.
And it's bad. It's not fun. It's not fun at all. And you shouldn't have to go like, so Lisa and I, we're not the perfect communicators, right? We're still, you know, we're still human, right? Yeah.
Okay, if you say so.
Yeah, we're not perfect at it. We work hard at it. And the reason we work so hard at it is because we've been through crisis and we know how important just simple communication is. We know how important it is. But you listening, you shouldn't have to go through crisis to realize how important communication is. Like, and you know, and so keeping that, balancing all of this. If anywhere's out of balance, so if you're not communicating well with your spouse, if you're not communicating well with your kids, if you are putting everyone on a back burner, like the family, right? Everything else is going to be out of whack too. Yeah.
It's the wrong priority, right? Yeah. Listen, because we kind of said that, but let's just make sure if you missed it, if you're just tuning in now, okay. So God, if you're married, your spouse, then your kids, you know, family, then work, then, you know, and you now you can prioritize these other ones how you need to, right? Work and friends and church and community, and include the ministries that you need to be involved with, whether that's, you know, you're mentoring people, whether that's you're just, you know, talking with people. I mean, you know, what you figure that, because that's actually something you need to figure out anyway. But that, right, you have that going on, because if you're not able to, I guess I should stop this and then we'll look up but there's a verse that talks about being a provider. And I think a lot of dudes out there are thinking, I give them money. They're paying the bills, the lights are on and all that, which is great. Don't want to take that away from you at all. Keep doing it. Right. You know, because there's some guys who aren't, and willingly, not because of the situation they're in. They just don't, you know, they're not stepping up. But being a provider is more than cash. Right. If it's kind of like, you know, it's going back to praying. You're like, if you go, God, I want you to be the provider. Okay, well, here's some money. I mean, you know, is that really just what we want from God? Just some cash, you know, just line my pockets and I'll keep doing it. No, I would like his presence. I would like his, you know, his time when I'm praying. I would like for the salvation's a good thing too, you know, eternal life, you know, stuff like that. But I want to know I'm important. I want to know I'm his child. I'm like, all the cash, you know, just doesn't say that. And so, you know, you're not providing. And there's a verse that talks about anyone who fails to provide for their family is worse than an unbeliever.
Man.
So that's if you can get those priorities down and you start to understand or change your perspective, change your vision. I've got a vision for that. Here's how these things should start to line up. Guys, I promise you, more things will start to fall into place as far as how do they fit into your life or not. But, you know, it's like, and you were talking about like the communication, right? You know, how am I communicating with them? Am I giving them the time to communicate? Am I listening to them and being present? And am I effective? Am I effectively managing my time as far as part of this too?
Absolutely. And I think that you could be listening right now and you're like, I have a super stressful job. I work long hours. You know, I come home. I come home late. I get to see the kids to bed. We get to hang out with my wife for a minute, and then I have to go to bed because I have to do this all over again the next day. I feel that where it's like I don't have the capacity to do what you guys are talking about. Like I don't have that's the feeling, right? Like almost like you're drowning, right? And you just like, I don't know how, I don't have the will to get out of this. Like, I don't know how to get out of this. I can't help it. Like, this is just my life right now. This is just my season, right? It's like, this is the season I'm in. I have to do this. My capacity is not growing. it is because your priority is out of whack. Your balance is off. And we were coaching a couple the other day, and the session started off with, like, this couple was like, "Hey, we heard your podcast. We have questions." Right. And so it was almost like a reverse, right? It was kind of cool. It was actually really cool. It was almost a reverse. And she's like, you know, the wife is like, you know, "Can I ask these questions?" We were like, "Fire them off. It's totally fine. You know, yeah, bring it. Right. Not a big deal." And one of the things that came up was capacity, was the balance, almost the balance. We kind of talked about balance and a little things, but what I was telling her, she asked me specifically, she goes, "How is it that you can share your story all those times? And, you know, where's your shame? Like, well, how do you feel when you do that?" And so I told her, I was like, "Hey, listen, when we started this ministry, there was 1 week where I had to share my story multiple times throughout the week. And when I got done, by the end of that week, when I got done, I looked at Lisa and I was like, I don't know if I could do this. Like, I know God's forgiven me. I walk in victory. I know, but I'm wrecked. Like, I'm tired of telling my story," which sucked because it's a story of God's miracles, right? It's not a story of my shame. It's a story of what God can do in your life. And so saying it to her, I remember this so vividly, saying it to her, like, wrecked me, because I'm like, I don't know how to do this. Like, I can't do this all the time. Well, my priority was right. I had my priorities in order. I had this. I had my walk with Christ. I had where my work fits, where my life, my spouse fits, where my family fits. Like, I knew all those things, right? It's things that I've been practicing. During that time, as I was feeling this, God was building my capacity, right? So now I added this whole new facet of our life. And we jumped in, and we knew God was telling us to do it. So we jumped in and we started doing it. My capacity hadn't reached what God giving us yet. And I think it was a great learning point, that more learning of, like, God, I need you. I can't do this. You gave it to us. I can't do it. You know, I know I'm going to do it. I just can't do it. I don't know how to do it. And he's like, "Okay, here's more capacity. Here's more capacity so you can keep leading and loving and doing your family right, and growing your marriage right, and also your career that you have going on.
Yeah, there's that too.
Do that right, because I'm going to give you more capacity. So when you get home after a long day and you have a couple coaching sessions, it's okay, because now you're growing. Like, if you have to share your story over and over again, here's more capacity in your life." But I couldn't have gotten there, one, without God, and two, without the proper balance, without the proper, priority list, right? Without that focus, there's no way that my capacity would have been built, because I would have been stretched way too thin and grasping for straws. And then during those points, you don't reach for God until you are so desperate that you're like, "Oh, I can't do this on my own," and everything's falling off. I'm not doing a service to people. Like, they're calling us and I'm sitting there yawning. Like, I'm not helping people, right? That's what happens when you try to do it on your own.
Yeah.
So if you have this balance, your capacity will grow. So if you're out there and you're working, 12-hour day, get home exhausted, just enough to play with the kids, do whatever, and just enough energy to spend with your wife, what are you missing out of that day? Listen, I work long hours too. There's times where you have to get up early. Where do I need to prioritize my time with God? Like, do I have to get up earlier? Do I have to change something? Like, these are things that once you do it, all of a sudden you start finding time everywhere. And your capacity grows, and you're not coming home exhausted anymore. You're coming home because you get to, and I get to play with my kids, and I get to love on my family. I get to go to work. I get to do these. I get tos, right? Not the, this is my obligation to my wife. I'm driving home. I hate that. I hate it when dudes say, they're talking to me about their marriage, and they're like, "Oh, the wife." I hate that. Oh my gosh. I'm just like, the what? Like, really? I mean, yeah. Anyway, I digress. Anyway, it gets on my nerves.
Yeah, you mean the thing that's better than rubies to have? You know, this gift that you've given. You know, it's like, yeah, I think I understand what you mean, man. How does she put up with you? How does she stand it? No, that's the awesome points. I heard something that there was like research recently. I was meaning to circle back to it because it was pretty interesting concept. The people who are really busy, when they start to plan more, right? They start to be intentional about their priorities. They're intentional about, okay, you know what? I got to, because that's one thing that Jamie and I, my wife and I, you know, we realize when we're exhausted, when we're poured out and all that, we realize it's because we're probably doing stuff that God didn't want us to do or not. Yeah. Or not when he wanted us to do it. And we're not connecting to God. We're not spending the time that we should with God. I'm not getting up in the morning and I'm not making that the priority. I'm like jumping on email and again, oh, okay, let me start answering these. And the next thing before you know it, I've been caught up by that current and it's already swishing me along. Versus when people who actually schedule and they're strong and adamant about making sure they set this stuff in, and not just time management, but what's crucial as far as, okay, I got to have some prayer time. I got to get in the word sometimes. So if I have to get up, I've got to do something that's going to be beneficial for me physically because it'll be good emotionally and mentally, right? It's like, where am I going to find that time? Well, they just put in more time. When they do that, they end up finding that they have more time. It's counterintuitive. I still not sure how that works. That's why I want to go back to the research. But it's what they're finding out. Those people then report that they have more time for things.
You know, I love that because to me, I look at it as like tithing, right? As giving to the. So when Lisa and I were first married, I mean, I was still going through college. I had a job. Part-time. She's working. I don't even remember where she was working. We had a, apartment and we tithed no matter what. Like we said, not even, and I'm talking about like when we gave to the church, it wasn't like write the check, hold the check. Lisa told me that one time during this time, she's like, I'm just going to write the check and I'm going to put it here, but I've written it out. And I'm like, well, then we like that. That's not the way to do it, right? Like the way to do it is we give that check. Like that's part of this, right? That's part of what we're doing. And so we continue to do that. And if we ever wanted to go on a date, we would scrounge in the back of our car, find change, and we would always get enough change to go get a couple of cheeseburgers at McDonald's, not meals. Cheeseburgers and McDonald's. Just cheeseburgers. And then where we were living at the time, there was a dollar theater that was legitimately $1. Like it was not, it's $1 theater, then tax on. No, this was legit like $2, two tickets, go watch a movie. That would be our date, right? Now, I say all this because
I just was picturing you smuggling in the cheeseburgers. Put it under your armpit to keep it warm.
Exactly. Right? You can't move your arms while you're walking. Right? It was such a cool time. Now, I say all that, but there was always food at home. The bills were always paid. There was always gas in the cars, right? And I say cars. When we got married, we both had our own car, right? There was always gas in the cars. Now, our bills didn't match what we made. So there was no reason that our bills should be paid and we had food in the pantry, And so when we wanted to do date night, we scrounged for change to go do that. But we tithed. We did that on purpose. Could we have used that money? 100% use that money. But it reminds me along the same lines of what you're saying. For me, I prioritize my time with God, right? That's the first thing when I wake up. If Lisa's not awake, I sneak out of the bedroom. I go grab a cup of coffee. I sit down and I'm doing my devotions, right? That's how I do my mornings. Whether if I wake up late, then I got to hurry up and do it, right? But no matter what, I'm doing this in the morning. This is how I'm starting my day. So it's that I mean, it's kind of like tithing, right? It's that tithing, but I have found more time throughout the day to get my tasks done, to get things that I have to get done because I gave that. So when we were like first married, we were giving that check. And then we were finding there was no reason that we should have had the money we had to pay the bills when we did our, bills. There's no reason that stuff should happen other than God's faithful. And so you could see it in every aspect of your life. Listen, if you don't tithe, like I am a big proponent of tithing, and I know it's not in the New Testament. Don't go all theological on me and be like, they don't say tithe in the New Testament.
Comment below, email at notyouraverage.com. Let Brad have it.
100% no. There's nothing like it doesn't talk about the New Testament. It talks about money, but it doesn't talk about specific tithing. I get it. Right? So I don't want to hear that. But I'm a huge proponent on that because I know what giving can do. Right? And so if I can give my time to Christ first, throughout the day, I'm doing it all the time. But if I can set that time out first, I have found that everything's like in balance and I have more time to do things. My capacity is greater. I don't get tired as fast. Like there's all these things that happen. And I do attribute that to the way I start my day.
Sure. Well, yeah. Well, you know what? We're as believers, as followers of Christ, we are called to do some pretty supernatural things. How in the world are we going to pull off supernatural things if we're not connected to the supernatural source? If you're married, God wants you to do some supernatural things in your marriage that can be excruciatingly difficult if you're not connected with God. And you probably have had seasons if you're that you were like, why do we keep having these problems? Why do you keep running into this? I'm not saying that you don't have enough faith. I'm not saying that you're a bad believer on that. I'm just suggesting you might not be tying into God's as the source, so you're not able to pull off the fruit that God wants you to do. But I'll go ahead and share this because we got saved. I was like 28. So, then starting this concept of tithing or concept of giving, and so like, I hear that's $20. Yeah, sure. But you know what? You want me to give what? How much? What?
I thought I was tipping the pastor for his service. What's going on here?
I know. I like air conditioning. Sure. Here's some money. These are comfy enough seats. Sure. Okay, whatever. So it was something that I was not accustomed to. And it was not, so this is not a tithing sermon, but so I got to the point where, started to get there. And, and I know that's not the right biblical. It's not like, okay, it's a work up to, but you know what? God was gracious with me. I got laid off a couple years after I got saved. Honest to goodness, we were held through that time, and I literally got a check from, it was like a corporate type of check and all that. It was from, like a different state. And there was like, it just said in there refund. It didn't even like have like the place where it came from. It just refund. And it was like a few $100. And it was like, this is the weirdest check I've ever gotten. And I have no reason to get a refund from anything like that. So I just wanted to share that because it was so out of the blue that it yes, it could have been anything, but I've never got one before, never got one since. And I got it in our time of need. Not suggesting that, that's everybody give money and then God will send you a check. Yeah. No. That's so if you heard that, you missed the point, guys. But the point is, if we have our priority, if we're giving, if we're connected with God, if we're following what God's saying, then that's when He equips us, and we will see fruits that we wouldn't see otherwise, right? And look, be flexible, right? You got to be flexible because life is unpredictable. We're in a sense of a broken world. Brad, you mentioned there's seasons. People might be in a season. It might be one of those things you got to be flexible for the, and it can disrupt even the best plan schedule. So, so adapt to the changes. The best relationships have flexibility. They're able to do that, but then try to figure out, okay, How do we get back to a norm or to, thing like that? Or, or help to reassure, you communicate with each other, talk through each other. Well, this is what we're experiencing during the season, but how do we, we hold it tight until we get there? So I was thinking like maybe when you have a new baby,
absolutely,
like that,
yep.
the baby's, right? Can't schedule when that baby's going to get up and down. You could try.
You can knock yourself out.
Write us. Let us know how that worked. I want to know how that worked out. But right until that baby then starts to decide that they're going to sleep at however many weeks, months, then that's the season. But you got to hold each other together. You got to carry each other through that and to get to that. And that's going to, job changes and goodness. And I don't want to sound like I'm giving advice, but for those of you who are working night and day, because I've been there, got up before the kids got up in the morning, got home after the kids were in bed. That's a lifetime ago, right? And had to find another job. It just was not sustainable for the family. I got into it before I got saved, became saved, realized this isn't where my priorities are off. And even though it's, was lucrative, it wasn't the right reward. Yeah. And so that's like, I had to find something else, which was difficult with that schedule. And God blessed me with another opportunity to step away from that, to do something different. But it's tough. And sometimes that might be the out. You might need to find another position if you're able to. I don't know if this is the best season to look for a job, but it's been a decent season to, what we hear about the employment shortage. Yeah. And I keep hearing that more jobs were added than they expected, and the people still can't find good employees. So I don't know. Maybe if you are in that situation and you need to look for another job, maybe now's the time to look for the job. Don't say Chris said to quit. Chris suggested that you look for another job.
Yeah, I mean it's if you want the life that God wants you to have, then you need to be ruthless in all areas in your life, right? So if that does mean stepping down from where you're at now because your balance is off and you're not doing what God wants you to do, right? And not saying that you're wrong, like not saying that you're out there like debauchery and sin and all that. No. I'm just saying like God has he has a life for you. And if you're not able to do that, if you have a wife and kids and at this time you're having to ignore them all the time because of the way your career is, then maybe it is like, I need to be ruthless and I have to figure something out or else I might not have a family, there's so many what ifs out there. And listen, I can't imagine trying to find another job. Like I really can't, but it's that serious of a thing to have your life in order, right? To have those balances, when we reconciled and, I moved back in and our marriage was getting better and all that, there was things that I decided in my life, I am going to be ruthless about these things. And if there was a friendship that needed to be severed, then it was severed. And it was because now I know that this is my priority. Like this is what it is. And this is what I'm doing. And everyone knows what I'm about. So if you don't like it, then you can get out of the way and I'm going to keep going. I go, it's the same thing. I think I've talked about, I don't know if I've talked about it on here or not, but it's that being unapologetically Christian, right? I'm not going to apologize for my stances because I'm not worried about my political stance. I'm not worried about my social justice stance. Not worried about, my stance is on the Bible, period. And that's my walk with Christ. And I'm not going to apologize for that. If the way I'm prioritizing everything and the way that I'm balancing my life offends someone, it's not because I'm trying to offend them. It's because what God is doing, if that offends you, then you need to check yourself, right? That's just how it is. And so that's the ruthlessness that you need to have a great marriage, to be a better husband, to be a better father, to be a better person, to be a better man at work, all those things. There's things you have to be ruthless about. And so it's not hard. I mean, it's hard. It's not easy. But man, once you start doing it, like, it's a big deal.
Oh, yeah. Well, the two things that popped into my head, you don't want to gain the whole world and lose your soul. There was that. And then also the idea of friendship with the world is you can't be a friend with the world and a friend with God. So if you're going to choose friendship with the world, then you're an enemy to God. I would rather be on the side of being a friend of God. That's just me. But yeah, as far as that, I love that idea, that ruthless, because if we have the right priority, if we understand our purpose, right, because we got to ask ourselves, what's our purpose? We talked about that, guys. And if you don't know, I'm not saying go back and listen. I'm just pray, get in prayer with that. If you're married, there's ways to find out what your purpose is. Right? That's something Brad and I can help you all with that. There's God's got a vision for you. God's got a plan for you. He's got a plan for you individually. If you're married, He's got a plan for your marriage. He's got, we said, for your ministry. Whether that's just how you talk to people at work, whether that's you get with a group of men. I was going to say small group of men, not a group of small men. But you know what? It's or whether it's volunteering, it's something bigger than yourself that's involved with God, right? The Bible tells us that He's given us all gifts and talents to be used for the further of the kingdom. And if you're not using them, then that might be why you're kind of exhausted, because God's going, okay, look, if you're not going to be using what I'm giving you for the purpose I'm giving you, why do I keep giving you? What's the point of that? And then, I wanted to make sure we're throwing out there, it's okay to seek help. It's okay to ask for help when you need it. We're all brothers. We got to band together. I mean, it's, and Brad, you've talked about, the military kind of aspects and all that. I'd be a fool to rush an enemy line all by myself and leave all my other brothers back there and going, oh no, you all just hang out back there. I have to do this on my own.
Leroy Jenkins move. Have you never heard? Oh man. Yeah.
No.
So this is old. Right. But there was this funny video that came out, and it was, everyone said, like, I'm sure there's a lot of guys listening to this. When I said Leroy Jenkins, they started laughing. So
I'll try to put a link here if there's a video.
You need to do this. So, like some online game, computer game, all these people are playing, and they're coming up with this plan before they go in and defeat whatever it is. Right. I have no idea premise of any of that. But while they're coming up with this plan, one of the players runs in there by himself and he yells, Leroy Jenkins. It just starts going crazy.
All right, chums up. Ready, guys? Let's do this. Leroy Jenkins. Oh my God, he just ran in.
And so that's what I thought you'd get the reference when I said that.
No, I think that's awesome though. Yeah, I want to find it though.
Exactly what you were saying. He was like, "Yeah, forget this. I'm not like, let's do this." Yeah.
Yeah. No, we're not made to do it alone. None of us are made to do it alone. We're created for, like, how do you love others as yourself if you're not loving others, and not letting them love on you? So if it's at work, delegate. You don't be the yes man to every single thing that gets handed to you, because eventually you're going to get overloaded, and then people are going to go, wow, this guy sucks. I thought he was great, but yeah, I overloaded myself. So ask for support from your church community, your church family. If you're married, get a babysitter, or swap babysitting. Get with the church for resources. I mean, you have to get a break every now and then. There's resources out there. There's helps out there. That's why we do these podcasts. That's why we have on our websites. There's a lot of things that we give away for free to help out and to benefit. And we're not the only ones. We've locked arms with other people. So you don't have to do it alone. If you think you have to do it alone, you're believing a lie.
Absolutely.
You're believing a lie. So I guess you have anything else you want to add, or what? Yeah, we'll bring it home then. All right. To take this home, average man, he does get caught up in the world's current. right? It just gets carried away. It either drifts or gets pulled into the rapids and smacked hard against the rocks, and lacks that balance because he lacks focus. He doesn't understand the perspective and the priority and the calling on his life. The above average man, he's working to understand that purpose. And daily he focuses on his priority, and he also filters the items out based on that priority. Right? Does it fit my priority? Nope, it's out. It helps simplify a lot. And he's working to have a vision for his life, for his family's life that aligns with God. He also understands that he's meant to be engaged in a ministry that's larger than himself, to bring glory to God and to be a light in a dark and dying world. Go out there and be better than your average man. Guys, thanks so much. Make sure that you subscribe, like, and comment. I would love to hear from you. If you're here listening to us on the podcast, hit us up with a review, and we look forward to talking to you all next time.